So in healthcare, if people hear voices, we generally have medications for them to help them through their difficulties. But I wonder if sometimes we all have voices, the hidden voices that we don't talk about. And what if those voices actually affected the way we make decisions? Hi, I'm Bruce Spurlock, a physician and healthcare leader committed to helping professionals and decision makers navigate change with clarity. In Viral Healthcare, we examine the trends and activities going along in healthcare, which ones are sustainable and which ones make a difference. So today on the reflection for this week, I want to talk a little bit about these internal things that go on with us that maybe we're not even aware about how we want to be seen, how we think we should be seen, what we expect from ourselves, and how they may influence, for better or for worse, some of the decisions that we're talking about. So this week we talked about how we've explored in past episodes activities that relate directly to an innovation, what makes it shiny, what makes it really attractive, what makes it go viral. We talked about some decision-making strategies to make sure you are thoughtful in how you look at it. Today I want to talk about who you are as a person. This is sort of an extension of our last week's episode. And it really is some of the things we think about in leadership, what makes a good leader. So here's the question. If you're going to hire somebody and you're looking at the characteristics of a person that you're thinking about hiring, what do you look for? And, obviously you might indirectly think about looking for somebody who acts and talks and looks like you, but really some of the things that I think a lot of us are looking for are they decisive? Are they creative? Are they innovative? Are they confident? Can they simplify complexity in order to communicate more effectively? So those are some of the traits that we often look for. But what happens when those strengths, when they're obviously strengths, people need to be decisive and creative and confident. But what happens if they turn into pressure during the decision-making process? And that's kind of this whole thinking about what are your expectations about yourself? How do you show up? And in some ways, we probably don't even realize that oftentimes as leaders, especially if we have a lot of experience making decisions, we have some hidden audiences. We have some hidden voices. Like an audience might be a board or a senior leadership that you're trying to make sure you can prove that you're a good leader. It could be your peers. It could be industry folks. It could be things inside of yourself, like your own sense of identity. Maybe there were things that happened when you were a kid or when you were younger or going through your training programs that you really had to prove to somebody that you were actually a strong leader. And that required decisiveness, confidence, even in the face of some uncertainty about what's happening. Those are things that oftentimes come back and are embedded in the way we think, and we aren't even aware of that. And that's kind of the point of what we're talking about. These decision-making processes can be influenced by things that we're not even aware of. And that's the important part, is taking time to step back and think about what's going on within me internally and having some ability to be self-reflective. So what if your decision-making process really is about who I'm supposed to be, what I think a good leader is all about, and maybe that makes you act too quickly. Maybe that makes you act so confidently that you can't even admit uncertainty, that the thought of having failure of a decision doesn't even enter your mind. And we've talked about in the past how you need to build in the fact that failure is a possibility, and how do you anticipate it and how do you think about it as an important part of the decision-making process, and how to avoid some of these fancy trends and fads that are going on in healthcare. So it's just about thinking about internally about how you do things. So is it possible for you to even admit that maybe there are these things that you think about, or maybe you don't even think about them, that influence the decision-making episodes? So the question for you to think about today is, when I'm in the process of considering something important for our organization, am I making a decision or am I performing the decision-making process? And it's subtle, it's so powerful to think about. Is this a performative kind of activity? Is it sort of showing up how I think I should be? Or is it really from a distance with a lot of emotional space, able to step back and look at it objectively and honestly? So that's the goal for you today, to think about that. If you have friends that are navigating change or are facing some of these complex decisions, just ask them, is this something that's about the way you think you should be, or is this about really what's right for the organization? And taking that pause, taking that few seconds to be able to look at that, to have that self-reflection is as a theme that we're seeing throughout all of the discussions we have on these podcasts. So I'm excited about this, and hopefully you'll have a good weekend with that. The next episode is going to be interesting. We're going to talk about how to make decisions in a group, or how to deal with the sort of social, psychological, and political activities of a decision-making process that is beyond you, beyond just a solo person or an individual making a decision, and how that can influence the way you do it and the way that can have danger and problems related to the results from that. So I'm Bruce Spurlock, and this is Viral Healthcare. I'll see you next time.